Hi guys, welcome back to another video in this channel. Today we're gonna continue with the chest, and I have great news for you guys, but you're gonna have to wait until tomorrow to hear them out. So if you're checking this video, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, share, all of that things down here so that you get notified, because we have a very nice surprise tomorrow here in the channel. So without further ado, let's go into our stream here and continue with the chest. So we're actually really close to finishing it. As you can see, we're only missing like these details right here, which are the locks, and then there's like a weird little thing over there as well. And that's pretty much it. After that, I think if we have enough time in this video, we'll unwrap and we'll be ready for texturing next week. Okay, so this Thursday or tomorrow we're gonna have a special video, as I mentioned, and then on Friday we're gonna continue with the medieval lighthouse. We're probably gonna bring this guy and start doing some tests, or continue with another prop. And then remember, this weekend we have our portfolio review, so if you want to be part of it, if you want to see your work featured and you want to get some tips and tricks that you might find useful for your own personal growth, make sure to follow the link down here in the description to that. I think that's all of the news. Just 1 minute, so not a lot of information there. Let's go. So let's start with this little guys right here, and the only thing I can see is they're like spheres or circles. So I'm gonna start with a cylinder. I'm gonna rotate this cylinder 90 degrees to the front, like so. And I'm gonna change the amount of divisions to 12. There we go. 12, I know I mentioned that 8 is like the magic number, but if you want like a relatively like nice curvature, 12 works really well. And I'm gonna show you one trick right here, but first we need to create like the union with this one right here. So as you can see, it's the small one, and then right beneath it, so I'm just gonna duplicate this one, we have a bigger one. So we're just going to duplicate and make it bigger. So as you can see, it's roughly that shape. I'm going to grab both elements right here. And one thing that I am going to try and do is make sure that my scale on the y-axis is the same. So that's 1.106. I'm going to say 1.106. So they both match on the same like plane. Grab both of them, and I'm going to say mesh and combine. Now I'm going to select this face right here and this face right here, and I'm going to delete them. Select this face right here and this face right here and delete them. Let me turn on the key maps again. There we go. Now I'm gonna grab this vertex and this vertex, and we're gonna merge to center. This vertex and this vertex merge to center. This one and this one merge to center. This one and this one merge to center. And finally this one and this one merge to center. This one and this one merge to center. There we go. So yeah, that's pretty much it. As you can see, we have the shape that we're looking for, which is that one right there. It has a couple of spheres, but we're gonna add those spheres super easily. I am gonna give them a nice little bevel, especially on the front here. So make sure you select the whole edge loop right there. I don't really care about the back part because it's gonna be overlapping, but having like a small little fraction there, I think that's gonna look good. And there we go. That's our nice little gold piece over there. Now the cool thing is, if you feel like this piece is still a little bit too big, we can just press Control and this little blue cube and make it smaller only on the X and Y. When you press Control and click a cube, it will scale on the other two axes. So it will keep in this case, the C axis intact, so that we can keep it a little bit closer to what we want. There we go. I think the proportion is a little bit better there. Let's create the spheres. One thing that I love about Maya is the snapping features. So if you press a V on your keyboard and you snap it, you can snap it to a point. So at that instance, I'm going straight to the center of that element. We're going to rotate this 90 degrees. We're going to use our little trick here to 8 sides so that it's a little bit more manageable. And we'll scale this up. It does seem to be a little bit flatter, so I'm going to flatten this out like this. And again, to save a little bit of space, I'm going to grab all of the back faces and just delete them. I'm even gonna grab like this edge right here and just push it slightly in so that there's overlap and we don't see like any empty space in between the objects. We're gonna say mesh display, soften edge again, and there we go. So now this one, Control D, and again V, and we're just gonna snap it to the other pivot point, which is right here. And as you can see, the little sphere is a little bit bigger, so we're gonna make this bigger. And there we go. Again, low poly, no, not super like intense or anything. It will look good, and we're ready to go. So we grab both of them. I'm actually gonna say mesh display, soften edge to everything. You might get like a weird shadow over here. To get rid of that shadow and save a couple of what's the word? A couple of vertices or polygons. What you can do is you can select these two vertices, press Control F11 to switch selection to faces, and then delete those faces. because this is again gonna be overlapping, so we really don't need those faces stealing UV space and adding more polygons, right? So we grab this guys, combine so that there is a single object, right click, assign existing material. We have the gold material that we created in video 1, and I am gonna just move it to where it's supposed to be. So let's go to the front view, and it should be right about there. You can see it's right there. It only like occupies that little space right there, so we definitely need to scale this down. Let's go to right view and rotate this around to find like the perfect angle. There we go. And get it in there. There we go. Perfect, right? I think it's a little bit bigger, so let's make it a little bit bigger. There we go. Nice. So that's the little detail that we have right there. So I'm gonna grab this guy, freeze the transformation, center pivot, everything to clean it up, to make sure the transformations and everything are nice. Right now we haven't done any actual cleaning over here. We're gonna have to do that because you definitely want to have a clean project. Right click, shift right click, and then mirror, and we're gonna mirror on X negative. There we go. Now, if we want to have them on the other side as well, which I think we might, I'm going to shift right click, go into mirror again, and we're going to go see world negative and hit apply. So now we're going to have that nice little detail on both sides of the chest. Now, one thing that we're not seeing and we can add are hinges, because I would expect to have some sort of like hinges back here. So if we take a look at the hinge, there we go. So these are like the hinges, right? Usually these things right here, like the things that you screw, should be on the inside. Otherwise, anyone could just like unscrew them and open your chest, right? So we're not gonna be seeing those. We're gonna be seeing like the outer side of the cylinder right here, and it's just like a cylinder inside of a cylinder, right? Because this guy right here goes inside this other guy right here. So let's do it. Let's do a very simple like hinge. So I'm gonna start with a cylinder. Let's rotate this again 90 degrees so that we have this. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reduce the amounts. Let's go to like 12. I think 12 is a nice, again, a nice number. We can grab all of these faces, only the faces, not the caps, and say mesh display soften edge as well. And that's gonna soften this up, and it's not gonna look as bad. We can grab this edges right here and say mesh display harden edge, and that's gonna hold the edge a little bit nicer. So even though it's not smooth, it will look like kind of smooth. And this is one of those things that, yes, you could like model like the inside and everything of the hinge, but since it's such a small prop, or it's not like super important, it's a part of the prop that's not super important. As long as you convey what's supposed to do, you should be more than fine. So I'm gonna assign one of this at 80% and one of this at 20%. And then I'm just gonna grab this guys right here, and I'm gonna bevel. Remember, when you bevel an edge loop, you create like a little edge ring or face ring, and then sorry about that. And then you grab these guys right here, Control E, and we can push them in, and a little bit of offset. Give me just 1 second, guys. Because I'm having my allergy attack. And there we go. So see, as you can see, I made a mistake here because I did not select the other side, but that's fine because we know that we have a couple of tools that can help us with this sort of like things. So I'm just gonna bevel this guys to give it a little bit more like detail on the hinge itself, and this is what people are gonna see. So they won't really know that this is not like a proper hinge. It will look like a proper hinge. We can even go to like this cap right here. Let's press Control F11, Control E to extrude, offset this a little bit. Maybe a little bit more, and let's like grab this guy, or sorry, bevel that guy to create like a little loop. Grab this face right here, Control E, same deal, push it in, offset, not a lot, just like a little bit, and we can grab like this guys and bevel. So when you see it from the side, it looks like a hinge, right? Like it might not be modeled like a hinge, but it will look like a hinge. I'm gonna shift right click and go into mirror, and we're gonna mirror this X world. And as you can see, since we're still on the center line, it will give me all of these things that I just did on this side, on this other side. It will even create like a line on the middle, which is exactly what I want. Now I'm gonna snap this to one of the circles. Remember one of these guys? So I'm gonna snap it to one of the vertices there, which I know are like very like exact. And then I'm gonna position them right here. I might even like make them a little bit smaller like this. There we go. Let's assign the same like gold material. I actually do want to add another bevel on this outer edges. I think that's gonna look nice. There we go, just like that. And now we can go again mesh. Since we have more edges, we can go mesh, soften edge, and it will look nice. And there we go. Now here's a fun bit. What I can do now is, or what we'll do this at the very end, but what we can do is we can select this vertex right here to be the pivot point. So when I move the whole thing, it pivots from that specific point, and it will look like the hinge is actually working. So again, super cool thing. Shift right click, we're gonna mirror this, and we're gonna mirror this on X negative world, so that we have this on the other side. And again, this is something that you don't see on the concepts, and it's one of those skills that you're gonna have to develop as a 3D artist, because sometimes you're gonna get a concept that's not clear enough. Let me give you a quick example. For instance, I love doing characters, and sometimes if you have like a really good concept artist, you're gonna get like the, let's say, yeah, like this sort of stuff, where you have like back view, front view, 3/4 views, different renders of the details of the cloth, of all of the things that you're gonna need. So that's great. Like if you can get this sort of stuff, amazing. You're gonna have a super fun time, because everything's gonna be super clear. But sometimes you're gonna get stuff like this. They're like, yeah, this is the concept, and you're like, okay, but where does this belt go? Does it go all the way around? How's the back plate over here? Do we have any sort of like detail or trim on the cloak on the back side? Like there's a lot of things that are not defined, and sometimes the concept artists are so busy doing more concept art, or maybe they just hired someone and this is what they delivered and that's it. And you are gonna have to find like what makes the most sense to fill the back of the characters, okay, or whatever piece of the character you're missing. Hopefully you never get something like this where you're not even seeing the front, because that would be like really sad, and it makes work really difficult. I think one of the most difficult things to do is when you get like this sort of stuff, like super cool pose, but not super clear on what's going on, and there's a lot of missing pieces. I've gotten some characters like this, and I mean, it's doable, but it's tricky, right? Because you don't even see the proportions right. There's a lot of foreshortening, and it gets tricky. The best kind of concepts, as I mentioned, is this sort of stuff where you have like front view, back view, details on the patterns like this. Amazing. So if you have a good friend that does stuff like this, never let him go or her go. Buy her or him some drinks or dinner, so that you always have a good concept artist to go to. So yeah, there we go. Now let's do this little locks right here, and as you can see, we have 3 locks actually. There's supposed to be 3 locks. So what I'm guessing is when you plug the key in, it like shuts or creates like some sort of bolt over here, so that it closes the chest on this specific area. That's pretty much just a pill, like a cylinder. One of the fastest ways to do like that sort of shape, I think, is to create a cylinder, and then grab all of the lower faces. I like to grab all of the lower faces. And there's a couple of things you can do. I'm going to show you one way. You can go edit mesh and then extract to like pretty much extract that like half of the cylinder. Move it down to where it needs to be, like the distance that you're roughly going to need. And then grab both objects again, because they're now separate objects. Combine them and just bridging from one to the other. Like this. Now, I personally don't like having like these things that I'm gonna show you right now. Like this topology is a little bit weird. I mean, it's not the end of the world. It will work. Like it's not like it's gonna crash or anything. But it's just a little bit unpleasant to see, you know, like the front face. So one thing we can do here, because we actually need to create like the keyhole, and that's gonna be a little bit tricky. Not super difficult, but it's gonna be a little bit tricky. Is we could add one, let's go vertex control F11, and we can add just a little offset on the side, so that at least we have an edge loop on the border. Now this is going to be a little bit more manageable. So for the keychain, or for the little like keyhole, that's like a very traditional keyhole. So I'm going to start with a cylinder. I'm going to rotate this cylinder around 90 degrees. go. Let's move this forward. Change the amount of sides to 8. And then grab this face and this face. And I'm going to extrude out. And see, we get the little key shape. Now, if you want to modify a couple of these things, very easy to do. Just a matter of scaling them down and moving them around. I actually just want like the front, like this thing's right here. And then here's a nice little trick that I'm going to do. I'm going to grab this edge, extrude this out with thickness or with offset to create an edge loop or an edge border. And then this vertices or these faces, we're gonna delete. So this is what I wanted to create, like the silhouette of the key. Because remember, we're not gonna press number 3. We're gonna stay in low poly mode. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna select these 2 faces, gonna delete them. And what I need to do is I need to incorporate this thing into my key slot. So let's go to the front view. Yeah, that pretty much looks like the concept, so I think we're in a good position. I'm gonna center the pivot point on this little object and then press V and this green arrow to make sure that it snaps and it's perfectly flat. Grab both objects, combine, and now we need to fill this hole, right? Like we need to fix this thing. And I'm gonna show you a trick that we use in games quite a bit. I'm not sure what the proper name is. I always called it stitching, but I've heard people call it different names. So I'm just gonna select this guy, and I'm gonna say mesh, and we're gonna close hole or fill hole. Actually, let's fill this hole first. There we go. And now we grab this guys and fill this hole as well. Now it's creating a weird thing. Okay, no problem. I'm just gonna grab like these 2 faces and bridge them, and then these 2 faces and bridge them, these 2 faces and bridge them, bridge, actually we got like relatively proper topology. I thought we were gonna have a little bit of a harder time, but see how every single thing goes to like a corner? That's really common to do with this sort of things when you're trying to like insert a shape inside of another shape in games. In traditional subdivision modeling, you actually need to think about like the topology and the flow so that when you press number 3 or smooth it, you get like the proper flow. But in games, you really don't care. The only thing you care about is having only triangles and stuff. Now here we have a decision to make. We can either create a little bit of a hole here for the key or leave it hollow. I usually don't like leaving things hollow, so I am just gonna like extrude this back, and then I'm gonna say mesh, fill hole, select this face and say edit mesh, poke, and that pretty much fixes my element. I'm of course gonna bevel. You guys, I know I love bevel, so I'm gonna bevel the inside and the outside a little bit, probably like a small fraction, just to catch the shadows a little bit there. We can say mesh display, soften edge. That's perfectly fine. We're definitely gonna bevel this guy right here. Let's do on this one. I am gonna do 2 segments. And in the very similar fashion to how we did the other bit, we can delete the back part of this because we're not going to be seeing this thing is going to be completely flushed on the element right there. So now that we have it, center the pivot point, go to the front view, and let's go where it's supposed to go, which is about there. Ahí está. Sorry, that was Spanish. Ahí está means that's it, or there it is. There we go. Cool. Eventually, we're going to paint that little hole black, of course, so that it looks like it's actually like going inside. Now, here's where I'm noticing that this little sphere is a little bit high. So let's bring it down. And if we need to move a couple of this downs, I think that's fine. The only thing is, of course, we're going to have to... did I not duplicate that one? Oh, it seems like I didn't. We are gonna have to reduplicate. So like all of these guys, since they moved, we're gonna have to remove them. So gold, there we go. We're not gonna have this guy back here, of course, because the locks are only on the front side. Shift, right click, we're gonna say mirror, and this is gonna be X negative. There we go. So that's gonna be it. Same for this one. We're gonna mirror on X negative, and we are gonna mirror on Z negative as well. There we go. Now let's grab one of this. Actually, it's going to be a little bit tricky. The reason why this is going to be tricky is because we have a lot of copies, right? So So again, we're just gonna delete like all of the faces. When you delete the faces of an object, you can pretty much get back the original object. Control D, so that one's gonna be right about there, and Control D, that should be about there. Perfect. So grab both of this, Shift, right click, mirror, and we're gonna do X first, and then C. And that should give us on both sides as well. Cool. Let me see how we're doing on time. Wow, we're already 20 minutes. This is why, I mean, I love modeling, and you guys probably love 3D as well, but that's why sometimes, and I'm not calling out anyone, but 3D takes time, right? Like, even if you're really fast, like I consider myself to be quite fast when modeling, even if you're like really fast, it will take some time to get things right or to finish things. So yeah, don't rush things. Let's save real quick. I'm gonna grab the whole thing here, and I'm gonna get this into a layer just to turn this off, because I wanna work on the main thing, which is this one right here. Now for this one, we're gonna do a slightly different trick. We're gonna quadro the things, and I'm gonna move this image so that we get as close as possible to the half moon. So I know that if I trace this, we're gonna get really close to the shape of the object, right? Same thing with this one right over here. So I'm gonna create a plane, or actually let's move this to the center, like right about there. And then the plane that we just created, I'm gonna rotate this 90 degrees. The polyplane is gonna be 1 by 1. And then we're gonna move it like down here. I'm gonna turn on Quadro. And Quadro, it's a really cool tool that allows me to inject points in the element, and then when you press Shift, when you have 4 points, it will generate whatever shape you're like going for. I don't really care much about topology right now, or topology flow, because as I've mentioned before, this is going to be for games, and we're not going to be smoothing. If you're going to be bringing this into ZBrush or somewhere else to add more detail, then you might want to like model things properly. But in this case, I think we can get away with this effect. There we go. You can press Shift to relax the elements. And I know that, again, when I press number 3, things are going to smooth out, but we're not going to really smooth things out. We're going to kind of like leave it like this. Now, since we're already doing this one, we might as well do this one over here. So we can have like 2 different islands. That's something that some people forget about the tool, the Quadro tool. You can have multiple islands at the same time, so that when we extrude them and we create like the final shapes, things are looking good. I'm gonna have one more line there and relax, just to have a little bit more curvature in some areas. There we go. Now this one's tricky, because as you can see, it kind of creates this weird shape going forward. It's kind of like a from poker cards, you know, like this sort of shape. So I'm just gonna create it, and then we're gonna have to, of course, position it properly. But at least we get like the rough shape of how this thing is gonna look. There we go. Yeah, so this thing is going to be a little bit more straight. Right now it's on perspective, so let's fix that. And that's it. Now I'm going to go object mode, select all of the middle vertices, snap them together with scale, or scale them together. And then with X, W and X, I'm going to snap them to the center so that we are perfectly flat. We're going to say mirror, in this case X negative, and we should have this shapes right here. Now we bring the chest back, and we can move these pieces to make sure that they fit where they're supposed to be fitting. So this one, for instance, I'm saying that this is a little bit too wide, so no problem. We can just start grabbing these edges. This is why it's very useful to work with low polygons, or a low polygonal density, so that you can modify and adjust these things. I think I'm gonna separate them, so I'm gonna say mesh separate, so that we can work with them as a separate piece, because as you can see, this one is a little bit lower. It's going to be right about there. And of course, let's center the pivot point, and we're going to rotate them so that they fit nicely here. We're going to overlap, of course. This one, we're not going to delete the back sides. We're going to extrude this out, and that's going to be my, like, the main lock, which is that one right there. Perfect. Now, the border, of course, we're going to bevel. There we go. And hopefully, guys, with all of these projects and all of these videos, you guys are learning the process. That's probably the best thing I can teach you guys, which is the process. And you will always find things that are complicated. Like even in my case, I've been modeling for a little bit over 10 years, and I will find certain models, certain pieces, sections that I'm like, damn, how am I supposed to model that? And it's kind of like a jigsaw puzzle that you need to solve to get it to work. There we go. It's a little bit more like an arrow, so I'm gonna grab like this guys and this guys and push them forward, and then this guys. There we go. I like that shape a little bit better. Looks a little bit nicer. I might even grab like this guys right here and really give it the sharp arrow thing. Perfect. So now I am actually gonna grab one of these guys. So I'm gonna duplicate, delete, delete this guy, and then this guy. Let's bring it back to the origin, because I want to steal, I want to steal the little keyhole right here. So I'm gonna delete all of these faces, and then we can very easily delete everything else, and we're just left with the little keyhole. And it's just a matter of positioning where I want it. Size seems proper, so I'm gonna keep it there. And that means that I'm gonna have to delete a couple faces. Actually, let's bring it down a little bit so that we have to delete. So we delete this 4 faces. So we're gonna grab this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. We delete. Grab both objects. We combine them. And again, we just in this case, I think they're actually 8 and 8. Do we? No, we don't have. So it's 1 and 2. That's bridge. 1, 2. Let's do 1, 2, and 1, 2, and bridge. Oh, didn't work. Let's do it one by one. So bridge, bridge, bridge. We're gonna have a triangle. That's perfectly fine. Now the only issue I'm seeing here is that this thing is not perfectly lined up. So let me show you how to fix this. I'm gonna grab this guy, and we can either try to guesstimate the best option here, which I think is gonna be the answer right now. It's probably gonna be our best bet. I mean, the soft edge will definitely help hide the fact that they're not perfectly flat. We could go or rotate the object back and then just snap everything to an angle or to a plane. I mean, there are ways to fix it, but I don't want to make it super difficult for you guys. So let's go edit mesh and or mesh, fill hole. Oh, fill hole and fill hole. There we go. Grab the whole object, right click, assign existing material, gold. And that's it. We have our nice little effect. So as you can see, there's a little bit of a weird thing there. No problem, mesh display, a soften edge, and that should pretty much take care of it. So no more weird pinches or anything. Now for this one's a little bit tricky because as you can see, it follows a curvature, right? So let's center the pivot point, move it to where it's supposed to be. I'm gonna rotate it back. And then I'm gonna start selecting like the edges, probably like all of the edges. And let's rotate them back and bring them here. See what I mean? Kind of like following the shape of the object. I know I'm gonna be extruding, so I'm not too worried about the other things. Let's grab like all of the faces here. It seems like I broke symmetry. Did I break symmetry? There we go. So bring it down, bring it forward, bring it down, bring it forward, bring it down, bring it backwards, bring it up. There we go. And then it's a matter of grabbing like all of this, like this. Same deal, like bring them down. All of this, bring them down, and then all of this, bring them down. I'm kind of like hiding them beneath the object because I know that once we grab this and we extrude, it will look like this. It's actually like overlapping and creating like that sort of like effect that we have up there. There we go. Now here, I am gonna add a bevel on this line right here. I think that one is gonna help. So let's do 2 segments and a small fraction, just to indicate that that thing bends at that specific point. This thing, actually, this thing seems to be going like lower. I'm gonna have to go all the way back, because I just realized that this thing is like this. Like that border is where it flips, and then this. So I'm gonna do another trick here. I'm gonna select these faces, and then with D, I'm gonna move the pivot down, so that when I rotate those faces, they rotate from that specific point. And as you can see, that gives me a fairly nice effect. Let's rotate them up a little bit, just like that. There we go, perfect. So now, when we extrude, we should be closer to the concept, which is like that sort of like thing over there. These points right here are a little bit more like squarish, and then all of these lines right here should be like pretty flat. I'm gonna grab this edge and this edge, bring it forward, so it looks like that's the border of the chest. Let's take a look at the concept again. There we go. So this one's a little bit rounder as well. So grab these guys, bring them forward and back. I'm gonna add one line here, and then that line, I'm gonna give it a little bit more roundness, and I'm probably gonna add another line right here and add a little bit more roundness. There we go. So that's a lot closer to the shape that we have. Cool. Now don't worry too much about like the details there. We can add those in the texture department. So now I'm just gonna grab like the whole border. Very important that you don't miss an edge, because these are not like clean edge loops. So as you can see, we need to pretty much select every single piece. Bevel, 2 segments, and a small fraction. Now we are getting a couple triangles here. Super easy way to do it. Just grab both those faces, or angles I mean, mesh, and triangulate. And that's like the stitching that I've been talking about, where you just have like weird triangles, but that's fine because we just assign the material. We change this to soften edge, and that should pretty much be taken care of. That's a little bit of a weird, it's giving us a weird, I'm gonna show you another way. Instead of doing that, I'm just gonna grab like this edges right here and just merge to center. Because again, this is not subdivision, so we can get away with those sort of like changes in geometry. So mesh display, soften edge. And as you can see, we're not gonna get such a weird effect. Cool. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. I just need to add the little like bolts right here, but I don't want this to go overly long. So I'll just add those little guys. I'm just gonna grab like any of these little spheres right here, duplicate it, and position them where they're supposed to go. And we're pretty much done with the modeling, guys. So as I mentioned, tomorrow we have a special video. I think you guys are gonna like it. And then on Friday, I think on Friday we'll probably do UVs. I was thinking about continuing with the lighthouse, but this is kind of like part of the lighthouse because we can add it to the scene. So we'll do this, and then remember, Saturday and Sunday we have portfolio review. By the way, another big news, this weekend I am gonna be moving, so the portfolio review is probably gonna be the last time you see this setup. It's not gonna be as pretty at first because you know, moving takes time, so it's gonna be pretty bare bones at first, and then we'll start adding more and more decoration to the new studio. Okay, so yeah, that's it, guys. It's always a pleasure for me to be teaching you tricks, tips, and a little bit of 3D. Make sure to do it. This is a very fine exercise to try it yourself, because I think it's a relatively simple model that you can learn a lot from. And yeah, that's it. Make sure to like, share, subscribe. I'll see you back tomorrow. Bye bye.